Shin Godzilla was Toho's return to the Godzilla series after an almost decade-long hiatus with the release of Godzilla Final Wars in 2004. I'm Zach from the Five Nights Tavern, and today we'll be looking at Toho's legendary and triumphant return to the Godzilla franchise. Let's get started. Released in July 2016, just 2 years after the legendary reboot of Godzilla, Toho expressed interest in making a new Godzilla film following the success of the American version. Shin Godzilla is once again a reboot, sharing no continuity with any of the dozens of previous Godzilla films. This particular movie would release to rave reviews and would go on to win multiple Japan Academy Prizes, including Picture of the Year in 2016. Despite releasing just 2 years after the legendary Godzilla film, this movie is not connected in any way to the legendary MonsterVerse, including Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters, released in 2017 and 2019 respectively. The film opens with an unknown incident destroying a Japanese Coast Guard vessel and flooding an underground tunnel system. Government officials begin investigating the issue, but are caught off guard when a large tail suddenly emerges from the water. Panic ensues as a large creature makes landfall and begins destroying everything in its path as it crawls along. The creature eventually manages to stand up as it begins to rapidly evolve into a larger being. As this happens, though, it begins to overheat and returns to the ocean, prompting the government to begin the difficult process of investigating this unknown being. Due to the high radiation readings along the creature's path, a team of researchers under the command of Rando Yaguchi theorizes that the creature is powered by some sort of nuclear fission. Shortly after, the creature, now known as Gojira or Godzilla, once again emerges, now even more massive in size, and begins tearing through Tokyo on a seemingly unstoppable rampage. The rest of the film follows our characters as they desperately attempt to stop Godzilla before all of Tokyo can be destroyed, either by Godzilla himself or other outside forces. A major positive for this film is the theme. Like the original 1954 Godzilla, Shin Godzilla is a metaphor for nuclear radiation. Whereas the original Godzilla was more about nuclear war itself, Shin Godzilla chooses to focus on nuclear disaster. Specifically, it's a metaphor for the Fukushima disaster in 2011. This metaphor helps to ground the movie and further shows us the genuine fear that our characters are experiencing with regards to the nuclear radiation that Godzilla is trailing. The music, as always, is spectacular, with the composer borrowing several tracks from previous Godzilla films to help bring it together and round it up, making it feel like a genuine film in this universe. The design of Godzilla himself is a major positive for this film. The jagged, bloody look of him just helps to convey this great feel of dread and discomfort, especially as Godzilla evolves into his final forms. It is spectacular to watch. When discussing negatives, not many come to mind. I would say that the way we're introduced to all the characters leaves a bit to be desired. In the span of only a few minutes, we're rapidly shown multiple characters in many different meeting rooms with nothing more than a quick pop-up of their names and job descriptions. This rapid introduction hurts the audience's connection, or lack thereof, with all of our characters, and this becomes especially noticeable the longer the film goes on, as first-time viewers may struggle to keep up with everybody. The biggest thing for me, though, is the final act. Without giving anything away, the tone takes a massive shift in the final minutes that seems to disconnect from the otherwise grounded, realistic, and somber tone that the film has, by introducing a more wacky tone reminiscent of older Godzilla films. Subsequent viewings help to mitigate this problem, but it is very jarring for anyone watching this film for the first time. Overall, Shin Godzilla is a welcome addition to the Godzilla franchise and stands as one of my personal favorites. If you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend it, although don't go in expecting something silly and campy from the 1950s and 60s. I'm Zach from the Five Nights Tavern, and as always, cheers.